Hello, everyone. Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap each week of what's going on in space, and today we'll be talking about the second week of January 2020. Our first item has to do with the NASA Viper mission. Viper is a lunar rover that will travel around near the moon's poles searching for water. The story here is that NASA has delayed picking out a lander service or lander provider for the Viper mission. And the reason for this is feedback from the firms involved in the CLPS program. So the tricky part here is that Viper is one of the largest payloads currently slotted to land on the lunar surface. It weighs about 800 pounds. A lot of the other payloads are lighter weight and easier to manage. Viper is supposed to launch for the moon in 2022, and hopefully NASA will get this going, and we'll get some great information of on-the-ground truth about what's going on at the lunar poles. For a while, there have been ideas about launching tiny probes to nearby solar systems using lasers. And by tiny, I mean like the computer chip inside your iPhone or something, that size thing, tiny thing. And the problem with this is as the tiny spacecraft is flying out from Earth on the laser beam light, that if it falls like to the right or left, if it falls out of the beam for any reason, it loses propulsion. The new idea is using something called diffraction gratings that would enable these tiny spacecraft to adjust their course slightly, to maneuver just enough so that they stay centered in the laser beam, so that they can continue accelerating as they move out toward their end objectives. So this would be an exciting new technology, and it may actually be how we can get some tiny information about our neighbors. Sierra Nevada has decided to work with Dynetics on the human landing system. So I'm sure everyone watching this is familiar with the NASA Artemis program to return people to the moon, with a goal being to do that by 2024. So they're calling this the HLS for Human Landing System. And NASA hopes to have study contracts for this HLS program by early this year, early in 2020. So Sierra Nevada is going to work with Dynetics to do this, and it's exciting to see the pieces slowly falling into place for how people can return to the moon after all this time. Speaking of Artemis, the big question is more funding and political aspects as opposed to technology. So a big question is NASA going to get the money to go back to the moon? And there was a nice piece about the NASA leadership and the experiences that they've had that may make them more successful than some NASA administrators in the past at getting the funding that they need, because they have a lot of interesting congressional experience. Administrator Bridenstine spent 5 years in Congress himself, in the House, so he has a good understanding of how things operate. And Deputy Administrator Morehard spent many years as a Senate staffer affiliated with the Appropriations Committee. So he has an intimate knowledge of how money is appropriated in the Congress. So hopefully this experience will help NASA get the funds that they need to return to the moon. Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' space firm, is growing very rapidly. And the news this week is they just opened their new headquarters out in Kent, Washington. The new headquarters is quite large. It's almost 250,000 square feet. And in addition to the headquarters operations, it also encompasses research and development and some other things. This building is going to house about 1,500 people at the headquarters. And the building has been named in honor of Gerard O'Neill, the pioneer of the space settlement idea. The Air Force hired the RAND Corporation to do a study about launch services that the Air Force needs to do their job, and how many different providers they should try to arrange for in their future planning. And the general conclusion of the study is it's appropriate to have two main contractors, but RAND is recommending that they sort of have a half contractor, somebody who's a little bit in the mix enough that if there's a problem, that there'd be somebody who's close to being ready to step up, as opposed to somebody who hasn't even started doing anything yet. So the reason for the study is the Air Force is getting ready to issue 5-year contracts covering 30 national security launches over the next 5 years. So this is a really big deal. It's a lot of money. It's very important, obviously, that the Air Force be able to do their job. The main contestants for this activity are Blue Origin, Northrop Grumman, SpaceX, and United Launch Alliance. SpaceX is conducting an abort test of their Crew Dragon spacecraft. And SpaceX, as they normally do, is going to be live streaming this activity, and it should be really a sight to see. In addition to the separation of the Crew Dragon, the understanding is the Falcon 9 rocket it's riding on is going to be destroyed in flight by aerodynamic forces. There's going to be a giant explosion. So lots of fireworks that SpaceX is providing. So this is going to be live streamed on the SpaceX website, on the NASA website, and presumably because it's good TV, lots of news organizations will also put it up on their websites with links to the stream. And so you can see it live, or you can watch it later on. I'm sure that it will be up on YouTube and other places for future viewing. It's very, very important, because if SpaceX is successful with this test, that basically means that we would have the capability then of carrying people to the space station or to other space missions, a capability that we haven't really had since the space shuttle retired back in 2011. That's it for Space Headlines, covering the second week of January 2020. Hope you enjoyed our show, and we'll see you soon with the third week of January. Take care.